Hey listeners, last year was our 15th year of the best in food storytelling. As we head into 2025, we're kicking off a contest in collaboration with the podcast series Feast and Harmony and Sixth Man, where you have the opportunity to win a 4-night cruise for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, a food, wine, and spirits festival at sea. When you donate to HRN, you'll be entered for the chance to win a porthole cabin for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, sailing May 5th through 9th, 2025, from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico on Norwegian Gem. You'll also support another year of great food storytelling with a portion of your donation going toward disaster relief for the food and beverage communities within Western North Carolina and Southern California. This cruise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for culinary adventurers, featuring top celebrity chefs including Jonathan Waxman, Antonio Lafaso, Robert Irvine, and many, many more. There's a myriad of experiences such as restaurant takeovers, live food and mixology demos, themed parties, and more. To enter your chance to win, please visit heritageradionetwork.org/cruise. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or over to enter. That's heritageradionetwork.org/cruise.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Hey, Gringex Chicagoans. I'm Linda from Cena Secreto. If you are in the neighborhood, you should look up Cena Secreto on Instagram. See if I'm hosting any dinners or tastings upcoming. Can't wait to see ya. SEYNA Secreto. Secret with an O.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. Wisconsin, the state of cheese, makes half of the nation's specialty cheese and wins more awards than any other state or country. Our heritage and traditions, master cheesemaker program, and the American propensity for innovation all put Wisconsin on the cutting wedge of cheesemaking. With over 600 varieties of cheese to choose from and 5,500 national and international awards and counting, get ready to turn your refrigerator into a trophy case. Enjoying a Wisconsin cheese is basically like winning a gold medal in culinary achievement. Set your mind at cheese. When you bite into a wedge of Wisconsin Wonderful, you know it is made with the ultimate skill and passion possible. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
I'm Lou Bank.
You're Lou Bank. And I'm Linda Sullivan.
You're Linda Sullivan.
Nice
and this
job.
is Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave
Agave spirits.
and rural Mexico.
You know it. Hi, Lou.
Hey, Linda.
And hi, Gringex bartenders.
So you and I, we spent a lot of time talking about fermentation and distillation. But there's an Asian that we've not spent any time talking about.
Oh, well, everyone needs more Asians.
That sounded weird. ATIONS, in case anyone was wondering. So let's talk about evaporation.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, like I've never... I mean, we don't tend to talk a lot about barrel aging, which is where most people talk about evaporation, right?
Right. We talk about it less often in Quixote spirits, agave spirits, because we see it happen primarily on the tequila side, much less on the Mezcal and Friends side.
Yeah, Mezcal and Friends side, nice. But, I was in Denver last year, summer of last year, and I was doing this tasting, leading a tasting at my friend Steve's house. He had so we're in Denver, the Mile High City. Is that what they call it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. The Mile High City. I get my cities confused a little bit sometimes. And it's in the summer. I think it was July, so it was a little warm out.
Okay.
And the tasting was for 35 people in his backyard.
Oh, fun. Nice dry Colorado heat.
Yeah. All very important to this anecdote. And, I get really anxious when I'm doing my tastings. I want to get everything poured ahead of time so there's no hiccups. People walk in and we can just go, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not uncommon for me to pour everything an hour before the start.
Sure.
Yeah.
Get your mise en place ready. There's nothing that's going to harm the spirits by sitting out, right?
And the room smells fantastic.
Beautiful. Oh, yeah.
But this was the rare tasting I've led that was outdoors. And the very rare tasting that I've led in at that altitude, in that heat. So, like as I'm leading the tasting, people are kind of like, and I can tell that they're not like loving it.
Oh,
I'm like, well, no, I don't. These are delicious spirits. Maybe they're just not up to the quality of spirits. I'm right.
Something changed.
And it was literally, I poured like an hour and a half ahead of time, and even Steve was like, no, don't do, no.
Too soon.
Yeah, I didn't know what he meant, but all of these open copitas sitting outside at that elevation in that heat.
Yeah.
When I finished, so my friend Arik Toren from Lot 1 Importers was also there, and he was going to present his spirits after I did my little.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I sat down at one of the empty spots that still had the copitas, and I started tasting. It was like, oh my God. Like I don't know where the alcohol went. It tasted almost like NA agave spirits. Yeah, it evaporated that quickly, which was I've always said to people, oh, it starts to evaporate as soon as you start pouring it, so that's what you're smelling coming out. But not at that rate.
Right. I've never experienced that happen so fast.
Right.
Wow.
So anyway, that happened.
Then the light bulb moment, you're like, oh, I understand why all your faces are like this.
Yeah, exactly. And so then Toren comes up and he starts sharing spirits that he's bringing in, and I ran around and pouring stuff for people. I tasted that. I thought, oh man, his stuff tastes significantly better than the stuff I shared. I was all jealous. It was all delicious, and I drank it all. And
everybody's faces changed. Now they're having a good time.
Right. They're like, oh, Arik's the man, not Lou. Yeah.
Wow, what a great, that's a teachable moment right there, Lou.
Teachable moment, right? Yeah. But then, I was having, we've talked about my friend John DeRosiers from Cambio Tequila before, right?
Yes.
He and I sat in the backyard at the Star Lounge, Dark Matter Star Lounge here in Chicago.
Ooh, I like that backyard.
Yeah, it's a very nice backyard. And he was sharing his wonderful tequilas with me. Have you had them yet? Did we do that in the car?
We did. Yeah, we did
a
combi. I've had a couple.
Yeah. And he started talking about his process, and the evaporation story came up, and he had this anecdote to share with me.
The amount of tequila that is evaporated in Mexico is really, really high. So we lose 4 to 5%. Yeah. So if we put 220 liters inside of a tank, we'll lose somewhere 10 to 12 to 15 liters by the time it's done. For making regular añejo that's like 15 months old. If it's 2 to 3 years old, it's more. So I know that Felipe told us that he loses like 3% because his aging, he's got a cellar underneath the distillery, and they actually keep it moist. They water it down. There's a hose down there, and they're like, it's always nice and moist. And he was telling us that Fortaleza loses like 8 to 9%. And now I don't really know if that's accurate, but regardless, if it's 4 or 5%, it's a lot of tequila in a fairly short amount of time. And because our base spirit is so expensive, right? It's not like, making bourbon is, the aging piece is expensive and the time investment is expensive, but the product is basically free. It's subsidized corn, for God's sakes. When we make Cambio, we spend $8 a bottle on agave. Only one thing, the actual basis. So for us to lose 5% of our spirit is a lot.
Yeah, so my earliest memory of understanding the angel's share, the bit that evaporates out, was via the whiskey world.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's sort of wrapped up in the choice to age, right? You want to age this spirit because you think something cool or better or flavorful or interesting, right, is going to come out of that process. And in order to get there, you're checking the box. Like, I agree to the terms and conditions that I will lose a certain percent.
Well, there's the time is going to cost you. The percent is going to cost you.
Right.
Yeah.
You're sitting on liquid that you could make money on right now. And you're choosing not to make money on it. And then, like you're saying, secondarily, to also give some of it to the angels.
More like
right?
the devils. It's those
Well,
little.
I know, it's
like
kinda-
the rabbits. There's 400
it's
rabbits
rude
going
that they
around
take it.
sucking down all this tequila.
Oh, that's like a great Mexico reference.
Right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing that is that he pointed out, which is not true of agave, is that the raw product is expensive.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about this category is that it is so special. The vegetable that you're using in this series of processes is so unique and special, right? Not like the grain from which, we make whiskey.
Yeah.
It's a little harder to swallow the sacrifice.
Yeah, and I wonder if that isn't also part of the reason that you see fewer aged agave spirits. Like I think tequila, when it was trying, again, this is just a theory, but maybe like tequila, when it was trying to globalize, felt like it had to follow the model of whiskey and rum and age and wood,
right? Or you're kind of thinking of your audience, and you say, oh, all across the world they enjoy whiskey, bourbon, rye, Scotch whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And so let's give the people what we think they want, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like you're trying to cater maybe to your audience, and that feels familiar to them.
Right, but on the other hand, you've got something like mezcal that didn't really make it out of Mexico in the same way for 100 years later,
right?
Until 100 years later, and so back in Mexico, they're like, "No, I don't want to lose any of that. I'm going to bury it underground where none of it can evaporate."
Right.
Yeah,
And it's cool down there.
yeah.
It also costs a lot of money to maintain a barrel room, right? Just like we were hearing there, like you have the hose down there to keep it moist, you keep it cool, like you're trying to do things to mitigate how much you're losing, right?
Yeah.
That all takes money and time too.
Yeah. Yeah, which, to your point, when you think about the cost of agave spirits, whether it's tequila or mezcal, and the cost of losing that percent, yeah. So he was talking specifically about building an aging room after this.
Yeah.
He was talking, I'm not going to share the quote, but talking about building an aging room that's inside a mountain, underneath a mountain.
Oh,
so he
cool.
can get his loss down to more like 1% to 2%.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great goal.
Yeah. And I wonder also, like, if you're losing less, what does that do to the taste?
Right. Well, of what's left in the bottle or in the barrel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I wonder too. This also happens in like a bottle that we would have on our shelves if there's not a lot left in it, right? And there's lots of oxygen space, or space for, and only a little. So I experienced one of the first agave spirits that I ever purchased. There's kind of like the rule of half-lives. I'm like, I don't want it to go away. There's a special thing to that, right? It was, I think, the first agave spirit I had ever tasted that wasn't from Oaxaca too, and that made me excited. And I had an experience where I was leading a tasting using this same bottle, but it had been full and maybe had not sat on the counter or the back bar for 8 years.
Yep.
And I was shocked, just like your experience in Denver, shocked to taste that these exact same, air quotes, right, same bottles, mine had like lost the alcohol. It tasted like NA agave spirit attempt. And so that happens in the bottle too, that evaporation that, it changed the spirit. It was not enjoyable. It didn't taste like alcohol anymore.
Was it not? Oh, so it really wasn't enjoyable. It wasn't that it was less enjoyable. It was not enjoyable.
It was not enjoyable. It didn't taste like a well-made agave spirit to me because it had changed so much. So that was when I started, replacing agave that I have left, maybe putting it in the 375, a smaller bottle. So that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I in doing these water projects in rural Mexico, I stumbled upon a strategy that I hadn't seen before. This was within the last year, called fog nets.
Really?
Yeah.
Fog nets.
Fog nets. And it's just what it sounds like. It's literally like a giant net that you'd put in a community that gets foggy. And when the fog hits the net, turns from a vapor back into an actual liquid, kind of like the condensation at the top of a still, right? And then it runs down the net and is collected in through these channels into a very specific bucket kind of device.
Right, it's like a rain barrel in a way.
Kind of like that,
but it has the science component of changing the vapor into a liquid. And then they use it, I assume?
Yeah. And so my theory was, well, maybe you could put a fog net in a barrel room, and you could steal that back from the angels, their share. And I pitched this to a guy who makes fog nets. He's like, no, Lou, you don't understand the fog net. The fog, you need the actual vapor for the fog, and what's leaving it's evaporating.
So
but
in a barrel room, you wouldn't have that.
You wouldn't have that, which is a shame. But if you ever, if somebody does happen to have a barrel room, an aging room, where they notice that because of the specific circumstances of the temperature and such, that they do have a fog in there, I think we should try that.
What if you aged the spirits outside? Does anyone do that?
Outside?
Outside, or
well, then
then
you're going to lose even more.
Well, because of the temperature?
Yeah.
Well, what if you're like this side of the mountain idea? What if you just made like a room that only had, 3 walls or something? Like you could still be exposed to the fog, and then you use the net to make it moist.
Well, you're suggesting then that in essence that it's evaporating going into fog, which creates the that's really, I don't think that's going to happen. Well, but what it does make me think about though is, maybe burying it is the way to do it. When I look at those spirits that I got from Victor Ramos, and I look at the alcohol percentages of the stuff that was aged above ground versus below ground, they changed, right? Same batch, but the ABV changed relatively significantly.
A few points.
Yeah. I wonder if if you're trying to do any kind of quantity, I guess you can't really bury a whole barrel.
It would be a very big hole.
Yes, a very big.
Very big one.
Yeah. Or very tiny barrels.
All right, still brainstorming. We need I'm so solution oriented about this. I'm not interested in giving the angels too much of their share here with this expensive raw product.
Except Clarence. Clarence deserves something.
Aw, Clarence.
Clarence. Okay, well, that's all I got on the evaporate. You got anything else on evaporation?
No, that's as close as we're going to make it to a solution right now.
It does make me think though that if you're serving spirits like flights in the Mile High City, maybe just a la mignotte. Like pour as soon as the person orders, pour and tell them to drink right away.
Or just have everyone hang out under a fog net.
Oh.
With their rain gear.
Or only drink underground in a cellar that's moist.
Okay, I like that idea. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Building
good.
Underground cellar as we speak.
Okay, I'll see you in the underground cellar soon, Linda.
All right. Wear your layers. It's going to be cool and moist.
Hasta pronto.
Bye.
You've been listening to Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave spirits, and rural Mexico. We're blessed with sound engineering by Roy Sierra and a theme song performed by Gabriel Oliveira and Marco Ricos. Sign up to become a road tripper and listen to more episodes at agaveroadtrip.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know. And if you hated it, well, I'm sure you'll let us know that too. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip is a production of 10 Angry Pit Bulls, Inc. Agave Road Trip is powered by Simplecast. Thank you for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter.
To subscribe to the Heritage Radio newsletter, enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with Heritage Radio Network on Instagram and Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can also find Heritage Radio Network at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization using the power of education educational storytelling about food to build a more equitable, resilient food system. Heritage Radio Network couldn't do that without support from listeners like you. Become a part of the world's most innovative community today. Subscribe to the shows you like. Tell your friends. And please join the Heritage Radio Network family by becoming a member. To become a member of the Heritage Radio Network, click on the beating heart of our homepage. Heritage Radio Network can become addictive. Programming you hear on Heritage Radio Network might lead you to eat, drink, and listen to more programming on Heritage Radio Network. If you drink, please do not drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Drive responsibly. Eat responsibly too. And listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly. To listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly, wear protective earbuds. While wearing protective earbuds, do not drive. Do not walk either. Sit in a comfortable chair. If that comfortable chair has a hard seat, please remember to stretch every 30 minutes. If you stretch every 30 minutes, please stay within your defined stressing capacity. And consult a doctor who specializes in stretching. If you don't have a doctor, maybe Dr. Ryan Aycock, the Cocktail MD, can help you out. Thanks for listening.
Agave road trip out.
I'm admitting here and now I have a crush on another podcaster. It's called The Sporkful, and it's hosted by Dan Pashman, who's also the inventor of the pasta shape cascatelli. Why do I love Dan so much? What is this crush about? He obsesses about food to learn more about people. Dan explores what's so special about a shallot. Should you eat fast food on vacation? Is halal pork impossible? This is a podcast that's not just for foodies. It's actually for eaters. Listen to The Sporkful wherever you get your podcasts. I know you'll be full and satisfied.